The concept of anatomical localization is central to clinical neurology. When you encounter a cranial nerve deficit, the goal is not just to identify which nerve is involved, but to determine where along its pathway the lesion is located. This is done by carefully analyzing associated neurological signs. Take the sixth cranial nerve. Its function is purely motor. It innervates the lateral rectus muscle, which abducts the eye. When this nerve is impaired, the affected eye deviates medially, and the patient experiences horizontal diplopia that worsens when attempting to look toward the side of the lesion. Localization depends on what additional findings are present. If the lesion is in the pons at the level of the nucleus or fascicle, you must consider nearby structures. The sixth nerve nucleus lies in close proximity to the facial nerve fibers. A lesion here can produce a combination of ipsilateral horizontal gaze palsy and ipsilateral facial weakness. In more extensive lesions involving the corticospinal tract, there may also be contralateral hemiparesis, as seen in classic brainstem syndromes. If the lesion is along the intracranial course in the subarachnoid space, the situation is different. The sixth nerve has a long, vulnerable course and is particularly sensitive to increased intracranial pressure. In this setting, an isolated sixth nerve palsy may not indicate a focal lesion at all. Instead, it represents a false localizing sign. The key clinical task here is to look for evidence of raised intracranial pressure, such as headache or papilledema, rather than assuming a local structural lesion. If the lesion is in the cavernous sinus or superior orbital fissure, multiple structures are involved. The third, fourth, and sixth cranial nerves, along with branches of the trigeminal nerve, pass through this region. Lesions here typically produce a combination of ophthalmoplegia, sensory deficits in the ophthalmic or maxillary distribution, pain, and sometimes proptosis. The presence of multiple cranial nerve deficits strongly points to this anatomical location. If the problem lies at the level of the neuromuscular junction or the muscle itself, the presentation is more isolated. There is weakness of the lateral rectus without involvement of other cranial nerves, valvus. However, the key feature here is variability. Conditions like myasthenia gravis produce fluctuating and fatigable weakness, which can mimic almost any oculomotor nerve palsy. From a psychiatric perspective, two considerations are critical. First, always distinguish true neurological deficits from functional or psychogenic presentations. True sixth nerve palsy produces consistent diplopia that is maximal on gaze toward the affected side. Variability or inconsistency should prompt consideration of alternative diagnoses, including neuromuscular disorders or functional symptoms. Second, never miss the significance of false localizing sign. An isolated sixth nerve palsy, especially when accompanied by headache or visual symptoms, should immediately raise concern for increased intracranial pressure. This is a medical urgency and requires prompt evaluation. In summary, anatomical localization is a structured clinical reasoning process. The sixth nerve palsy is not just a diagnosis, it is an entry point into a broader neurological assessment that, when done carefully, can precisely identify the site and nature of the underlying pathology.